It's now nearly a week since Israel declared war on Hamas. After an unprecedented ground, air and sea assault by the militants over the weekend, the death toll continues to mount on both sides. Over 300 Israelis and over 1,500 Palestinians have lost their lives so far. And the humanitarian crisis is mounting too. Countries have now swung into diplomatic action to avoid a spillover. In the latest, Hamas says at least 13 hostages held in North Gaza have been killed in Israeli airstrikes in the last 24 hours. These hostages include Israelis as well as foreign nationals, as per the militant group. Israel has released footage of missile strikes in Gaza. It claims that fighter jets struck 750 targets in Gaza overnight, which included residencies of senior Hamas officials, tunnels, command centres and warehouses. The US Defence Secretary Lloyd has arrived in Israel. Austin will meet officials, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as Israel's Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, during his visit, which aims to show solidarity with Israel. Well, Israel has released footage of missile strikes in Gaza. It claims that fighter jets struck 750 targets in Gaza overnight, which included residencies of senior Hamas officials, tunnels, command centres and warehouses. Israel has called for the relocation of 1.1 million Palestinians in Gaza to the enclave's south within the next 24 hours. Palestinians fear it could be a precursor to a planned Israeli ground offensive following a deadly Hamas militant attack. The UN has urged Israel to call off the Gaza evacuation order, while Hamas has rejected the order. Well, tensions are also mounting on the Israel-Lebanon border. Israeli troops, tanks and vehicles were deployed and on standby along the border. Meanwhile, the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, is now in Jordan after his Israel visit. He's met with Jordan's King Abdullah in Amman. And we'll also meet the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. His aim is to engage regional partners on efforts to help prevent this conflict from spreading. And he's also expected to visit Qatar, Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Egypt. During his Israel visit, Blinken met the PM Netanyahu and vowed a robust support for Israel. As he said, the country will never fight alone, as the US will always be on its side. The Israeli Prime Minister showed Blinken the horrific images of infant victims who were murdered and burned by Hamas. Those images were shared by Netanyahu on the social media platform X. As the West ramps up its diplomatic efforts in the region, Iran has called on Islamic and Arab countries to form a united front against Israel. Iran's President Ibrahim Raisi accused Israel of genocide. Tehran has also reportedly offered to host an emergency meeting of the Organisation of Islamic Cooperation. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has warned that if Israel's bombardment of Gaza continues, the war may open on other fronts, which is being seen as an apparent reference to the Lebanese group Hezbollah. Human Rights Watch accuses Israel of using white phosphorus munitions in its military operations in Gaza and Lebanon. The use of such weapons puts civilians at the risk of serious and long-term injury. And the Gaza siege continues. Israel says this siege will remain in place until Hamas release the 150 hostages taken after Saturday's assault. The Red Cross says Gaza's hospital risks turning into morgues. The Israeli army has said it has bombarded the Gaza Strip with approximately 6,000 bombs containing 4,000 tons of explosives since Saturday, when it began the strikes. Amid the raging war, many countries have also ramped up efforts to rescue their citizens. India's first charter flight under Operation AJ, carrying 212 citizens from war-torn Israel, landed in New Delhi this morning. More than 200 Nepali nationals who evacuated Israel also returned home today, while a flight with 377 French nationals evacuated from Israel landed in Paris. Well, for more on this, our correspondent Jodie Cohen sent us this report.
Yeah, so in the latest, Israel has warned Palestinian civilians in northern Gaza to move to southern Gaza and has given 24 hours notice. And there's been reports that up to 400,000 people have already moved to southern Gaza. Now, we know that Hamas uses civilians as human shields, and Hamas has told the Gazan civilians not to listen to Israel's warning and saying that it's fake news. The UN wanted Israel to withdraw the warning, and Israel says that it's trying to minimize harm to civilians and said that the UN's response was shameful and it's doing what it can to save Palestinian lives, while at the same time trying to defeat Hamas, which is hiding in tunnels that Hamas built under residential buildings. Now, Israel is expected potentially to launch a ground offensive targeting Hamas at some point, perhaps after midnight, because they said it was a 24-hour warning and it was given just before midnight last night. And remember that this all comes after 1,300 Israelis, mostly civilians, were slaughtered in barbaric attacks in one day by Hamas. And Hamas has been compared to ISIS, and they're also thought to be holding 150 people hostages, approximately 100 of those Israelis and the others coming from 30 different countries, so affecting a lot of countries.